The time is 6:30, and by recording from New York, WETA Radio now presents Inside Gene Shepard.
Once again, oh, shucks, I forgot what we was going to do. I mean, you know, it's after all, it's really immaterial anyway. Life is one vast phantasmagoric experience. Or if it weren't an experience, it would be a phantasmagoria. But that's a whole different ballgame. Before we get totally involved in the real business of this show, which of course is to do commercials, before we get involved in that, we'll take a brief time out here to make a few snide remarks about contemporary life, you know, such as it is. Of course, you can also say good things about contemporary life, really. For one thing, there's the news. There's nothing more exciting than to listen to today than the continuing, unfolding pageant of human travail, misery, tribulation, chicanery, and an occasional small victory. And it just pours out. And have you ever had the feeling that now all the news is taped? I mean, you could put on 7 strike articles, you know, just show a bunch of pickets milling around, and then you have one section called the minority complains, and then you have this little thing, you know, well, you can just pick a new minority anytime you want, and then you have the weather. The weather looks pretty much the same. You have that, you know, have a guy, somebody named Casper, standing in front of the thing with a pointer, and the kind of a fuzzy map behind him, and then he goes to the radar view. You see this little blob going off and on. Who today remembers Lynn Dollar? You do? You remember Lynn Dollar? Well, of course, this is true trivia. Lynn Dollar was a pioneer in the weather movement, wasn't she? Yes, indeed. Yeah, in fact, that was back in the antediluvian days of the television world, when no television station was complete without a sexy weather girl. Oh, absolutely. And all weather had overtones of libidinous urges to it. Yeah, weather was it. And in fact, at the end of the weather, they used to come on with the credits as to who provided the gowns and the costumes for the weather girl. You remember? Oh, it was very elegant. Oh, yes. Now you just got a bunch of guys with thick glasses and pointers, you know, say, well, I'll tell you, that was a very funny remark, Ben. Now let's get on with the weather here. And then they go. Oh, of course, our life has lost a lot of style. It used to be. Speaking of other elements of that type of weather, that type of television broadcasting, which has since disappeared. How many of you remember when there used to be a girl that came on here late at night on television here in New York, and she used to suddenly appear like late at night, like midnight, just before the station signed off, and she would say, she was sort of lying on what looked like a bearskin rug or something. Do you recall that? And she would look up at the camera, and they had these off-key lighting. It was really, low key, very sensual music behind her, and she'd say, "Hello, Tiger." You remember that? What was the name of that girl? See how fame is? It's absolutely... So tonight, we would like to salute, if we may, before we go any further, we would like to salute the Dingbat of the week. Now, wait a minute, you know the expression dingbat, don't you? Of course, made popular by Archie Bunker. Yet not very many of you know what nationality that phrase is. Why do I know everything? It just completely confuses me. I just assume everybody else knows these things, and they never do. What phrase, the word dingbat comes out of one country, just like, say, the word cheerio is English, right? Cheerio, What is the word? This is a slang word out of a specific country, and it's not our country. You were going to suggest Queens, huh? No, they never heard that word until Archie started using it. What country is that? And so we take this time right now to salute. If you'll give me a little, give me the strange bird sound, please. Hey, that's it. Never let a strange bird operate without your mic open, so you can get. This is the strange bird. That's all right. That's the name of him. That's a strange bird. Not supposed to be any higher than that. Hear him? That's right. There's nothing wrong with that. What's the matter? Are you editorializing in there, Al? I'm sorry. That's a strange bird. I'm sorry, That's the best he can do, It's a rare bird, and that's the way he sounds. I'd like to have him sound more like an ostrich or something for you. But he by the way, do any of you actually believe that ostriches exist? I have seen many pictures of, but it's impossible. You can't believe that a bird like that exists. Do they actually? I mean, I have a feeling that the ostrich is an invented bird. Dr. Seuss was at work. No? They really do exist? Well, I tell you, I've had my doubts about many things. No, at this point, I'm beginning to re-examine my entire education. I'm just, at this point now, I'm arrived at the position where I'm total self-questioning. And so the other day, I was reading a piece in a magazine about Estonia, and it suddenly hit me: is there an Estonia? Now wait a minute. There you go, Al. See, he's beginning to question that, because I have continually heard of Estonia, but I've never known anyone who's been there. I have not. No, I haven't. I've never known anyone that's been there. I don't know anyone who speaks the language. I have never met an Estonian, and yet I've been told from the time I was a kid that there is an Estonia. We have not heard of any riots in Estonia lately, and that certainly is the hallmark of an official country today, isn't it? So I've questioned this just recently. I'm sitting there reading this piece, and all of a sudden I said, wait a minute, fella. You're just assuming there is an Estonia. Now, he in himself, the guy that was writing the piece, maintained that he himself had never been to Estonia. However, he was writing about something that he thought would occur if certain things were done in the Baltic Sea that would affect... I said, wait a minute here now. Yes, this could all be a false premise. There are many things, man has, for centuries. You may not, buy this. You say, well, come on, Shepard, it's ridiculous. Let me tell you this, that for centuries, men absolutely believed that there were mermaids. Yes, we think that, we thought, we tend to think that, like 500 years ago, they must have just believed in mermaids the way we do. It's a kind of a fanciful idea. But no, they believed that if you went out and you got your hook baited right, you could literally catch a mermaid. They were out there. They were out there waiting. Well, now, many people lived and died, and nobody ever disabused them of the idea that there were mermaids. Well, as a matter of fact, actually, a little over 100 years ago, people used to believe that there was a fluid, an actual invisible fluid that caused burning. This is what flames were. What it would enter this body, or it would leave this body, whatever it was. I don't recall the theory, and they thought that this fluid existed. Many scientists did too at the time. Now, I'm just merely questioning: is there an Estonia? Now, I'm sure that I'm going to get a lot of angry letters from people who once knew a lady who had visited Estonia. Well, that's well and good. Go ahead. I'm still yet to be convinced. I met a guy one time. Oh, no, did you ever meet a flat earther? You don't know what a flat earther is? Well, I met a flat earther one time, and it's only been about 5 years ago. I'm sitting at the dais there with, a lot of official people. I was at some kind of a dinner, and somebody whispered in my ear. A friend of mine says, "Hey, you're sitting next to me." I said, "No." He says, "A leading flat earther in the eastern seaboard region." I said, "He's what? Flat earther, what the hell?" And I looked over at the guy. He looked like anybody else. He was eating cream peas. He had the chicken a la king. He looked like anyone else. And I said to him, what do you mean flat earther? He says, he believes the earth is flat. I said, "Oh, he does." And I, of course, brought him around to that. I'm sitting there then eating my cream chicken, and I said to him, I says, "Hi, George." I kind of laughed. It's kind of hard to bring up a touchy subject like that, flat earth. You don't often discuss with your friends as to whether the earth is round or not. It's not easy to bring that in to a conversation, is it, Al? Not as easy as if, say, for example, you were wearing Argyle socks or something. You could talk about that. But it's not easy to bring in the middle of a meeting that has to do with nothing to do with this particular issue, the whether or not the earth is round. So I dragged it in by the heels. I said, "George, look at this little pea there. Look at that little pea there. Look at it. It's got a little cream on the side there. It looks just like Africa on it. It looks like a little tiny globe, doesn't it?" Just like the round, the earth there. At that point, he says, "Sir, it does not look like the earth." I said, "Well, it certainly does. Look, there's Africa. Look at that little bit of cream over there. It looks like, there's India there." "Sir, that does not look like the earth. It looks like the way you believe the earth looks. But we enlightened people believe that the earth is flat." And that started a great evening. Really did. So tonight I would like to salute the Dingbat of the week. Now, will you please give me my next Dingbat sound? That's it. I'd like to salute him. There you go. There you go. There you go. Hold it. At ease, crowd. I know you're excited tonight. Well, with the weekend, a couple of days off, you're getting all kind of worked up. But listen, I'd like to go on record as saying I will award a brass fig with a bronze oak leaf palm to anyone who has seen a film or a TV series lately that was not shot in Hollywood. Every possible police story, everything is in Hollywood, the whole thing. And California is the only state that is now represented on television, in spite of the fact they pretend that Mary Tyler Moore is shot in Minneapolis. Forget it. That show has been no closer to Minneapolis than Greenland has. I've been to Minneapolis. It ain't like that. And here's another example. It's all happening in California, gang. It all is. California is where the cuckoo birds have come to full fruit. And we would like to salute the leading one that has been making noise lately. This is Long Beach, California, which is right in the heart of it. If you've ever been out there, it's right in the absolute heart. And I will read you the piece. It comes just like this. The huge black Lincoln Continental purrs sleekly down the street. A youth in a Pinto catches sight of it and begins to shout and wave. A rough-looking biker raises a clenched fist in salute, and a van load of surfers trailing behind are almost out of control with laughter. It's like this all the time, says the Lincoln's driver. It is not hard to see why. The car, this great big Lincoln Continental, is equipped with 2 mock cannons Yeah, they're big cannons that are mounted on the front and the back, see? Great big cannons that fire various flavors and textures of peanut butter and jelly. They shoot peanut butter and jelly out. Boom, you know. Yeah, just like that. 2 large plexiglass balls are mounted on the roof and trunk lid. And they're great big, like big plastic globes that are hollow, see? And one is labeled Evil Detector and Control Firing System. And the other one is labeled Evil Radar Scanner and Audio Monitor. Both are filled with rotating objects, blinking lights, and little flags that zip up and down as the guy drives down the street. The driver is also a little, let's say, unusual. He is wearing his customary outfit, a gold cape and boots and red and blue tights with a big S imprinted on the shirt, you know, just like Superman. It is a very big shirt, as the full bearded wearer packs more than 350 pounds on his 6-foot frame. This apparition is... Can I have a little echo chamber there, Al, please? Captain Sticky! Captain Sticky, cruising the area in his Sticky Mobile in a relentless search for evil, or failing that, a decent place to eat lunch. He's 29 years old, Richard Pesta, who is living out the comic book dream of the lone caped crusader battling the bad guys, is more than just a run-of-the-mill California cuckoo in a funny suit. Well, I've never met a run-of-the-mill cuckoo in a funny suit in California. What is your average run-of-the-mill cuckoo in a funny suit? Is he the anchor man on Channel 7? That could be. Anyway, Captain Sticky, which is a name he adopted because of his overwhelming, he's got a monkey on his back as big as he is himself. He's got an overwhelming fondness for peanut butter and jelly. So he calls himself Captain Sticky. He already has had some success in his one-man crusade against evil. He has provided information on alleged hanky-panky at an Orange County nursing home, which is currently being... Well, anybody can report on any nursing home. And you got evil, apparently, according to the news. But anyway, this guy, until recently, was the owner of a small factory that made glass fiber products, and it made him enough dough to keep him in peanut butter. But he got bored with the business, and so the rotund Pesta kept dreaming of his days as a campus radical at California State U, when he felt he was doing something truly important, you know, by walking around and writing stuff on walls and yelling bad things at the pigs. His fantasies grew and took a firmer shape. What I found out from my college days, you have to have a gimmick, he says. Nobody listens if you wear a pinstripe suit. That was the beginning of the Sticky Mobile. Last year, he sold the factory, and now he is using the proceeds to operate his Sticky Mobile, you know, keep the cannons loaded with the peanut butter and jelly. By the way, he prefers, if you're curious, he prefers the classical Skippy. Yes, he is a creamy peanut butter man. He does not necessarily go for the chunky, says it gets in his teeth. He has conducted... he conducts his campaign from Sticky Manor, a plush leased home in Long Beach that is slowly going under the weeds and going to seed under his not diligent care. Captain Sticky says when there is villainy afoot, how does he detect it? He says, well, I just feel it. I can tell when I'm driving down the street in my car, when I'm nearing and approaching evil. I can sense it in my car. He says, at that point, I fire a few shots of sticky peanut butter, and the good guys form up around the car. By the way, he's got many allies, and he throws out forms called Fink forms. You read about that? Yeah. Well, you just fill out, if you know a Fink, you fill it out, and he goes and haunts them. Well, all right, now wait, now don't laugh at this. Don't laugh. California's always had guys like that. Did you know that there was a legendary guy? How many of you ever heard of the legendary guy that traveled on the railroads in California for years, who thought he was Napoleon? He dressed like Napoleon, and people all and he called himself the Emperor of California. Did you ever hear of him? Yeah, he just traveled back and forth, and it got so they didn't even, they didn't bother to take tickets or anything. They just left him hang around the train. They figured he'd draw a few more customers. I don't know. And he was the beginning of a long line. Have you ever seen this guy in Washington? Have you ever been to Washington? Well, there was a guy in Washington. There is a guy in Washington. I was just there a couple of weeks ago. And here he is. There's a guy that hangs around the Lincoln Memorial dressed exactly like Lincoln. You ever seen that guy? Yeah, he's tall, skinny. He looks like Lincoln. He looks almost exactly like Lincoln. And he hangs around. He just sort of looks very somber and grave. He looks like Lincoln. You know, he looks very, very like he's troubled by the Great War between the states. And he stands by the Lincoln Memorial. He just sort of walks around. He's got a black broadcloth coat with the big tails on the back and a high hat. Looks exactly like Lincoln. And yeah, and what's funny about it, people all come over and stand next to him and have their picture taken. And he nods. He doesn't take money or anything. He nods gravely. And little kids come up and say, "Would you please give me your autograph, Mr. Lincoln?" And he writes, "A. Lincoln." How's that, man, for living out of fantasy? I know one guy living in Bayside who firmly believes he's John Chancellor. Listen, I got behind a guy yesterday. I was in a cab, and I'm going along, you know, we're rolling along in this cab and looking at the scene. Whenever I've been in a cab, I like to watch the scene around me. You know, just you see fantastic stuff if you keep your eyes open in this town. And we're heading up 6th Avenue, actually. We're down around the 20 someplace. And all of a sudden, this car got ahead of us, this battered, old, crummy-looking car. And it was all faded and dents all over it. And on the back of it, though, this is what made it something worth seeing. This was right out of a George Price cartoon. You know George Price? You ever see his cartoons in the New Yorker? He's a fine draftsman. Anyway, there was a sign on the back. I kept looking at it, and the cab driver was looking at it, too, because it was written all across the back of the trunk, hand-lettered, but very carefully, but sloppy. You know, you could see he was painfully lettered in the white paint on this terrible-looking, old, blackish, kind of dun-colored car. It was hard to tell what color the car was. It was all faded. But these white letters jumped out. It said, "Women are the work of the devil." Women are the work of the devil. Well, we got a little closer to this, and I'm peering out of the cab, watching this car, and the guy who was driving, you know, old Herb up in the front there, he says, "Hey, look at that Dingbat." I says, "That's pretty good, isn't it, Herb?" And he says, "Yeah, look at a sign there on the other side." The other side, the other side says, "The devil is working through Barbara Walters." Holy smokes, there's a theological concept. I know that NBC has been accused of a lot of things, but I didn't know that it was using Barbara Walters to be a go-between with the devil. See, so it says the devil is working through Barbara Walters. Well, at that point, the cab driver says, "Hey," he says, "look at that." He says, "Boy, wait, I tell my old lady." I says, What do you mean, tell your old lady? What? He said, she sits every morning and watches that dame. What's her name, Walters? Barbara Walters. Well, I tell her that she's talking for the devil. I said, "Well, that's going to go over great at home, Irving." He said, "I don't know." I said, my old lady, she's just liable to, believe it. I said, "Well, I hope so. Let me know what happens." Well, so we pulled up next to this guy's car. See, how traffic gets down there around the 30s, gets all messed up. We pulled up, and we're here banging through trucks and stuff. And here's this old duffer. It's funny as heck. He's sitting in this car. There's a certain kind of driver that clings to he doesn't cling really. He grabs the steering wheel like the tiller of a ship that's about to sink. He's got both hands up on the steering wheel at say 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. He's got one hand. He's got the other at 10. He's got the other at 2. And he's really holding on to it, and he's staring forward. And you can see he hasn't shaved about 3 or 4 days, and he's wearing a corduroy baseball cap. And he's leaning forward, and he's got a sheepskin coat, and a corncob pipe is sticking out of his trap. He's driving. I couldn't figure out what he's driving up 6th Avenue. He looked about as in place on 6th Avenue as let's say if a camel stopped by the 42nd Street cigar store, and bought himself a package of Lifebuoy. This guy's hanging on there. See, he's looking out. Well, on the side of his car, then we really saw the full extent of it. See, now I might add that this car was probably 12, 13 years old. It was an oldie, and battered all over the place. On the other side of it, it said, big sign. It says, "This car is a lemon." This car's a lemon. Well, well, all the way around the side of the car, he had his complaints against the world. They were printed on the front, and this white lettering, like up in the front left fender, he had a fantastic tirade, which I'm not even going to repeat. There are kids up, He had a fantastic tirade against Con Ed, just tremendous. Gee, something that happened there, with Con Ed. And what it was a note instructing Con Ed what they could do with their bills. Now, so at this point, Irving says, this is really great, see. So Irving says, I really like this guy. So at that point, Irving catches up with him, and we're sort of window to window. Here we are, and he's glaring out. And Irving looks out at the guy, and he says, "Hey, how are you, buddy?" And the guy looks up, with that mad look. He's looking real mad over at Irving. And Irving says, "Hey, I feel the same way about Con Ed, buddy." And at that point, the guy goes, "Hey, shut up!" And he sits there and hangs up. He doesn't even want to hear anybody else complain. Oh, man. Life never ceases. Never ceases. Let's give a shot there. That's all right. That's all right. Now. Don't look mad. Hold it there. You realize, of course, that that's the sound of a hyena in rut. Angry. Oh, he's bugged. Speaking of barely controlled anger, the message, everybody today, like I got behind a car again. This is another one. There was a guy I've always wondered about people that put bumper stickers on their cars. Have you ever put a bumper sticker on your car, Al? I have never either. I'm just not the bumper sticker type. People keep, and yet there are some people who have their car. They'll pay $40,000 for a car, and they'll plaster it all up with these rotten-looking stickers all over the place, back, front, everything. Oh yeah, I saw a guy the other day, and I suppose the Die Hard premise is still there. There was a guy I got behind the other day, believe it or not, and there he was. He's driving along. He's got this battered old VW. Boy, it was a sad-looking old VW, and he's bearded, And on the back of his car, right there on the bumper, he had a thing, and it showed the bottom of a shoe. It was an old faded bumper sticker, and it showed the bottom of a shoe, like the sole of a shoe, on it. And it was faded. What was he saying? Do you know what that bumper sticker was about? Do you? Well, I do. And I looked at this guy and I says, for God's sakes, where's this madness ever going to end? He had about 14 other bumper stickers like, free the crew of the, what's the name of that ship that was caught in Korea? That's right. Free the crew of the Pueblo. He had that there. He had bumper stickers demanding the banning of everything from grass. I'm talking about grass that grows out in the yard. He says it eats up too much fertilizer. It could be going to the starving Indians. But what was the shoe? You don't know. Okay. All right. Well, let's put it this way. It was a political. I'll give you a clue. It was a political bumper sticker. I showed the bottom of a shoe. Just the bottom of a shoe. If I put my shoe up and you looked at the bottom of the shoe, it was the bottom of a shoe. Oh, all is madness. I repeat, madness. Where will it ever end? Let's go into arbitration. What do you say? Huh? I mean, everybody else is in arbitration. I'd like to be in a little arbitration myself. And sit there. Refuse to sign the contract unless it's taken to the full arbitration panel. I would like to become an arbiter. I think that'd be kind of interesting. Sit at the table and make profound judgments. which are then overruled and carried to the next arbitration, which are then overruled, and then they all go out on strike anyway, so it doesn't matter one way or the other. So have you seriously had the feeling that I've had recently? I don't know whether it's just me or not, but have you had the feeling that all of civilization is now coming apart at the seams? No, I'm asking you a serious question, not a hypothetical question. I'm asking you a serious question. Have you had this feeling that everything is unraveling? Now, I don't mean just, parts. I don't mean just some rotten politician done this to us again. No, I mean just everything in general is slowly dissolving. And it's not so slow right now. It's precipitously dissolving. Have you had that feeling now, really seriously, or haven't you? You have. Now, you're not being funny. How about you, Mark? I just wonder how many people are getting this vague suspicion in their minds, and there's not much you can do about it. No, because when something is dissolving, it's dissolving. That's not the same as a hole in the dike where you go and put a cork in it. It's when the dike is dissolving. At that point, and the sea's coming in, there's not much you can do about it. And you see such absolutely insane things going on all around us. On one hand, you find this vast amount of so-called poverty and problems with the energy and all that. And on the other hand, anybody that seems to be able to swing a bat, 190 hitters are getting $87,000. Especially if they missed the entire last season, they got a $24,000 raise. I just can't understand what's happening. It's just it's like everything is curious. It's like, I'll tell you what it's really like. It's like as if somebody took, I suppose you can say, the structure of our society, of any society, just society, not just American. Remember, this is happening all over the world. So don't just say American society. It's all over the world. It's as if suddenly, society, all through the countless years, has had a thing called a skeleton. There's certain things that hold it together. In other words, certain attitudes, like you don't hit somebody on the head, right, and grab his money and run away. This is looked down upon in certain areas. But now, all these various things, it's like the skeleton is slowly dissolved, and yet the body still remains there, pretending that it's nothing's changed. And it keeps wondering why the arm just fell off. What happened to the foot? The foot's fallen off. It's like as if it's all slowly collapsing, like the wind has come out of a giant dirigible that's slowly sinking to the ground. Now, many people are not aware of it. I noticed that. A lot of people simply think, I guess it happens so gradually and with so many different things occurring on so many different broad fronts that by the time the entire thing is slowly beginning to sink, like this great dirigible sinking down into the ground and the air is squeezing out of it, that the last guys to know are the guys that are operating the controls of the damn thing. It's weird. I just have had this feeling more and more. And it's not a feeling of despair, nothing like that. It's just a feeling that this is what's happening. Now, for example, how many times have you made phone calls recently to different places and you can't get anybody on the phone? People are out, they're just not doing anything else, fooling around. Oh, wow. Well, at least one thing you might take as a positive statement: you were there when it all collapsed. Years later, when they write the books about it, you can always say, I was there. I mean, it's like being around when Rome was going down, and Gibbon later wrote about it. You were there.
By recording from New York, you've been listening to Inside Gene Shepherd. We invite you to join us for our next Shepherd program, which can be heard at 6:30 Thursday evening, and for a special Marathon Shepherd program, which will be heard 6:30 Friday evening. Right now, it's 4 minutes past 7 o'clock. This is WETA-FM Washington, 90.9 on your dial. At 4 minutes after 7 o'clock, it's 49 degrees, and here are these items in tonight's news.